Hello, hi, my dear viewers, and welcome back to the second part of this Tremulus story here on the Rolling Nomads. To sleep, if not to dream. Without any other further ado, because we're going to go ahead and jump right into all of this nonsense, there will be a link to the first part of this floating around in the chat. Please, if you haven't watched the first part, you should before you watch this. So we're going to go ahead and get introduced to our wonderful cast here, starting with Mama Ramos.
Oh, hi. I'm Mama Ramos, playing Dr. Lillian Friedman today, and super excited.
Indeed. The alienist skin, or rather playbook, is what they're called in Tremulus. And we'll now go ahead and throw it over to the wonderful David Gagnon.
Hey, that's me. Hello, everybody. I am David Gagnon. I am the production supervisor here at the Rolling Nomads. And today I'm going to be playing Dr. Dylan Barker. Sorry, I had lost my train of thought there. I guess, I'm just excited to get into this.
That's losing your train of thought is a side effect of those amphetamines that good Seymour is so fond of.
Yeah, good old Seymour. No, but yeah, you can find me over on Twitter at DG the Nomad, and here on the Rolling Nomads, I can usually be found running our D&D game, Colder Than the Twitch's Wit, and occasionally popping up in things like this whenever I get the chance.
And we're so happy to have you. And last but certainly not least, the wonderful Azure Butterfly.
Hi everybody, I'm the Azure Butterfly, or Azure for short, or simply Rachel. I'm the production coordinator here on the Rolling Nomads. You may know me as Ingrid of Sintra from Witcher Old, Maria Russolini in Berlin Bloodlines, and now Hannah Ackerman in Of Bane and Blood. And today I am here playing Jeanette Miller, the detective.
Indeed, Jeanette Miller, detective. Jeanette Miller, private eye. No, she's actually a police detective. And, of course, I am Avery at Avery Boy on all the social media platforms, including right here on Twitch, where I play a lot of Space Marines. So if you're into purging heretics and tyrannids for our God Emperor, you should check me out. But more importantly, I'm the partnerships manager on the Rolling Nomads, and I do stuff. I play characters, I do things, and I love you guys. So, with that being said, I will be everyone who didn't just introduce themselves today. So without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump right in today. Would anyone like to give a small recap of the previous session, or would you like me to go ahead and handle this for this time? I'll take that as an I'll handle it. So where we started in an unnamed town in Massachusetts, we began with each of our investigators receiving a letter from their childhood friend, Rudy Rudolph Eichner, or rather, his wife, Leticia Eichner, talking about a very confusing state of verbiage that left our investigators unsure whether Rudy was dead or dying. But Rudy wanted to see his childhood friends one last time. With all of that being into account, we saw a touching scene between our good detective and the bakery owner and her grandson who lived beneath them. We saw a rather illuminating scene between our good physician and one of his clients and his druggist, as they talked about the benefits of amphetamines and opioids and things of that nature, and truly debated on the intricacies of what it is to be a medical doctor in the year 1930. And we also got to see a peek into the dark mind of Dr. Alienist Lillian Friedman, as she went through the diary of a madman and her clippings section, trying desperately to tie these disparate bits of information together to see what she could make of it, and truly did bring some information to light about a few creatures, something called a Baumgartner, something called a Bladergaunt, these names for things which shouldn't be. But nonetheless, our investigators came together and made their trip across the border into northeastern Delaware to the town of Bedlam, where they began their search. With a brief jaunt into the park and a interesting observation from the good alienist, a man with the eye of a fly, there was some investigation to be had. A button and a pin left in the park. I wonder what that could mean. Upon heading to the Eichner estate, got introduced to several sideboard characters, such as Roderick the doorman, such as Constance Jones, the housekeeper, and her son Ambrosius, where, upon seeing Rudy very ill, dying of the wasting disease, something we would know today as cancer, some bits of the mystery were brought to light. It seems this marriage is more of an arrangement for Rudy and Leticia, as towards the end of our session it was brought to light that Leticia is romantically involved with Rudolph's cousin, Angelica, and Rudy is suspected to be the father of young Ambrosius and is romantically involved with the housekeeper, Constance Jones. With all of these being put into place and the mystery that potentially initially brought them here somewhat solved, Rudy left the investigators with a task. He needs them to go to his old college frat house where 2 now mass murders have occurred. Rudy buying the home after the second mass murder in 1926, which is 4 years ago at this point. Needing to retrieve something called the Amber Emperor. Where we left off, a truly jarring vision from our good detective led to a bit of, what's the word I want to use? A bit of disruption in the sitting room as the pieces are beginning to come together, but they've been bid to stay the night, at least until the morning when the lawyer can come and read the will. Because as per the letter you received from Leticia all the way back in the beginning, Rudy's last will and testament will be null and void if the 3 of you are not there to sign as witnesses, and this has been specifically indicated in the minutia of the legality of the will. So with that being said, dear investigators, we find ourselves a short time jump forward. You've stopped this communal investigation in the common room, and you've gone to your bedchambers for the evening. It's nearly the 2nd hour of the morning. Your bodies feel weary, but the anticipation of what Rudy's last will and testament might contain are certainly enough to keep one awake despite the weariness of the body. So we'll start with Dr. Freedman. Please tell me, Lillian, with the intimate knowledge that you will get no sleep tonight, how do you spend your hours?
They left papers or a book, right, for us?
Yes.
If I remember correctly?
They left several articles of a local paper dating from 1922 up until this year. So there's about there's a stack of about 8 years worth of relevant newspaper issues. So it's probably about 13, 14 newspapers. I will remind you that at the top of each session, you can roll for your clipping section, and you can also roll for your Diary of a Madman.
Oh, where's my dice?
So which would you like to roll first? Are you rolling your Diary of a Madman first, or are you rolling your clipping section?
Let's go Diary of a Madman first,
Sure.
which is roll plus reason.
2d6, and then you add your reason stat to it.
That would be 8.
8. Wonderful. That is enough to, I believe, get you a clue. If I remember the reading of that power correctly, feel free to read it to me if you'd like.
Yes, sir. On a 7 to 9, I would gain 1 clue.
So as you go through the Diary of a Madman, this Piedmont journal that you found at an estate sale so long ago, tracking through, looking for this specific area, I think. Do you think that's fair to state, Lillian, that you would want to see if he was ever in this area of the country? He was a Union soldier in the Civil War. It's certainly not unlikely that he may have been in Delaware for a time.
That is very, very, very fair to state.
You do find an entry where Charles Piedmont describes one of his more leisurely periods of service, where he served as a requisitions officer here for a time. Now, Lieutenant Charles Piedmont goes through an entire diatribe about how this entire area felt like there should be something happening, but there wasn't. And he describes seeing men in yellow robes in the night creeping into the woods. He describes trying to follow them, but then his next entry isn't for 8 days after that, where he describes being, quote unquote, lost in the labyrinth of Carcosa. Words in the tongues of men and in the minds of mortals cannot comprehend what he'd gone through. This is truly the point where this is before all the stories about the Baumgartners and the Bladergans and things of that nature. This was his tipping point. This is what broke him. And it's a lot of words that essentially sum up to nothing I could write down would mean anything. And I think the quote that might jump out at Dr. Freedman the most is, "In the labyrinthine realms of Carcosa, there is no way that they could kill me that would matter."
This all happened before the original.
Yes,
Oh,
this is one
okay.
of the first entries in the diary.
This is going to be a lot of cross-referencing and checking between the journal clippings and then the information they were given by Rudy's wife and sister,
Cousin.
cousin. Is there the frat house, the brotherhood that he mentioned, that Rudy mentioned?
Mm-hmm.
Is there any mention of what colors they wore, had?
Well, let's roll clipping section.
Okay.
And I feel like that can be the draw between the two things there, because now you're going through your newspaper clippings to try and see if there's any connection to what you're reading in the journal.
Okay. somebody pray for me. So this is roll plus luck. That would be a 6 minus 2. I only have a 4.
Okay, so that is not a success.
Which,
So I think that's actually the first failed roll of the game. So now I get to explain what happens on a failure.
ow.
It's not as bad as you think, actually. You get a point of experience. You get experience in this game by failing.
Oh,
The only way for you to level up is to fail.
Huh.
that's interesting.
How very Lovecraft.
Right.
Well, and
Yeah.
truly, how very lifelike. We only get better at
True.
things when we fail at them. So, looking through your clipping section, they've brought a lot of things here, Lillian. There's a lot of newspaper to go through here, and in your hours of going through there, maybe it's the weariness setting in on you. Maybe it's the pressure of this whole thing. Maybe it's the fact that there's this stupid fucking fly that keeps landing on the newspaper.
No.
But you just can't seem to find what you're looking for. And I think with that, and with the same knowledge that you will also not be getting any sleep this evening, Detective Jeanette Miller, how do you spend the wee hours of the morning?
Honestly, with her flask, or if there's any better option available in her room.
Oh, sure. It actually doesn't take you that long. Being something of a connoisseur in these times of prohibition, you know all the little secrets. I think maybe you would go to get into the closet or something, and you would put your hand on the wall, and you would feel that it was hollow.
Mm-hmm.
Finding a little flick switch, opening a door, and there's a very fine crystal bottle of very nice peach brandy.
We're gonna take the bottle, and then we're gonna go find no, we're not gonna lay on a bed. We're gonna find a chair, like in a little reading nook, or like sitting.
Oh, it's very interesting that you mention that. There's a desk in this room, a very nice writing desk. It looks quite old. And that's strange because everything in this house looks, other than the bones of the house itself, it all looks very new. This is the first bit of antique you've seen. It's rather strange.
I think she's going to, with bottle in hand, notice that antique desk, and she's going to let her fingers trail on it, almost seeing if there's like feeling its history a little bit, or taking a breath, sitting down at it, placing the bottle on, popping the cork open, and or whatever, and taking a big swig.
Why don't you go ahead and give me a poke around?
Roll is 5 plus 2 is 7.
7. So that is a success. As you run your hands under the underside of the desk, you feel scratches in the bottom, grooves. I assume you get down to look and investigate. Climbing under the table, a little sauced. Even a little sauced as you are, still, the consummate detective. You see, scratched into the bottom of this desk, the letters EAP 1832.
Now here's another question. This is a writing desk, as you said. Are there implements?
There are. I would say that you probably brought a pencil of your own.
Okay.
It would not work with a pen and an inkwell.
I was about to say, like, the gravity doesn't. work that
But you
way.
can get underneath and do a rubbing of it if you like.
Yeah, I would like to take a rubbing of. What did you say one more time that it was?
It says EAP 1832.
AP. Do those three letters ring any bells?
Of course. I don't think it would be any stretch of the imagination to say that Jeanette is a bookworm in her spare time.
Oh yeah.
The most famous author in all of New England. Fits the time period. EAP. Edgar Allan Poe.
She kind of like taking the rubbing. She kind of freezes, and almost like in just like a moment of like reverence, just like staring at it, and then she makes sure to finish the rubbing.
Sure. And as you finish the rubbing, see a lot of spirals. Not deep enough that they ever were etched into the wood. Just slight divots. Spirals, some of them sharper than others. Some of them softer than others. Plethora of spirals having been perhaps nervously scratched into the bottom. It's then when the glass of the window vibrates as something hits the window. And you see quickly composing itself on the windowsill a raven.
Gonna look like from under the desk. I'm picturing she brought the bottle with her under the desk for the moment.
Sure.
So she's just kind of like laying on her back as she like looking towards the window. She sees this. She's gonna look to the bird, look to the bottle, and then look back to the bird. All right, Jean. All right, Jean. Maybe you're just seeing things now.
That's when the grandfather clock, boom, boom, boom.
In her tired state, she's going to jump at that and bang her head on the bottom of that desk.
It is somehow the 6th ringing of the bell. It's 6 o'clock in the morning already.
Wasn't it just 2?
If that. And with that, we will go ahead and shift over to our good Dr. Barker. With the intimate knowledge that you will also be not sleeping tonight, Dylan, what do you do with your evening?
The location where the mass murders happened, how far away is that?
In your vehicle? You're confident you could get there in 30 minutes? It's outside of town a little ways.
Right, because, I mean, 2 mass murders back to back, that's not a lot, but it happened twice, and that is strange.
Sure. The first set of murders happened in 1922, and the second set of murders happened in 1926. That's not even a 5-year turnaround.
That does make me wonder if there's something else there, but at the same time, what do I know about the event? Like, any known relation between who was responsible for the first and the second?
I would ask you to make me a puzzle things out roll, which is roll plus reason.
Oh, coming right up. Total of 9.
Total of 9. Wonderful. Now, I'm going to offer a rare bargain in this game.
Okay.
I'm not supposed to intervene very much with rolls as the story guide here, but I will intervene this once. Maybe more if you guys sweet talk me a little bit. I will allow you to add 1 to that roll if you would take 2 points of shock. It will take you to a critical success, and you'll be able to have your 3 questions. Those 3 questions that I love to ask you, and you guys always pick the same thing. That this is my bargain to you, Dr. Parker.
I like the sound of it. I'll go ahead and take the 2 shock.
Very well. So you take the 2 shock. This will elevate you to a 10. Now I must ask you, would you like to ask me a question? Would you like to carry one forward? Or would you like something of the GM's prerogative?
I'd like to go with the GM's prerogative.
Wonderful. Then what I will give you in this occasion, so I will give you 2 points of lore.
Okay.
As you begin to put things together, Doctor. Now, as an investigator, one might say you're a bit green, but as a man of higher thinking, of course, you've been doing this your whole life. As you begin to sort of sort through things and really get into the meat and potatoes of the information that you can pool together on these murders. The details, at least that were reported, are as follows. In the first set of murders, while Rudy was a part of the fraternity there, the killer was never caught, and Rudy was the only survivor. Nothing led to any sort of indication of who the killer was. And so the police dropped the matter. However, in the second set of murders, a killer was apprehended. One Thomas McPherson, the only survivor of that set of murders, being Tyrus Sommerfeld.
Was it ever said what happened to the survivor? 'Cause we know where Rudy is.
Thomas Sommerfeld? Or Tyrus Sommerfeld, rather?
Yeah.
He was transferred to an asylum in Massachusetts.
Massachusetts.
He never recovered from the shock.
I see. And I imagine
That town in Massachusetts, specifically, being a small town called Arkham.
I suppose conversations with him have not been fruitful since he began to stay.
It's funny that you ask. He hasn't spoken a word since the incident.
Has he communicated in other ways? Through writing, perhaps, like Rudy?
That you would have to write to the Arkham asylum staff.
Ah, yes. Okay. Yeah, that would take a little bit more time than we have.
I think that's accurate. And I think that by the time you finish all of this, putting all of this together, Doctor, kind of musing, maybe in a high-backed chair in your room, smoking a cigar, and maybe dabbling in that snuff box that you found.
And a glass of was it bourbon that we had?
Brandy.
Brandy, yes. A glass of that with me as well as I'm skimming through and reading all the things that I can on the matter.
And you look up, and as assuredly as the cock crows, it is morning. You've spent all night. And strangely enough, it only feels like maybe an hour or so has gone by. Strange. But there's a knock at each of your doors.
Might have something to do with the pipe. I'll go and answer the door.
And for each, you all see outside of your door that Leticia, Angelica, and Roderick, the doorman, are all sitting in the sitting room. Leticia looks up. Please forgive me for rousing you so early, but our barrister is here and he is ready to read Rudolph's last will and testament. If you're all ready.
Yes, I believe so.
Jeanette has left the bottle behind, but she does look very spacey right now. Her mind, she's still trying to puzzle out how she lost time that quick. Yes. Everybody else is ready.
I'll finish the last little bit of the brandy that I had in that glass, and I'll be ready to go.
Nothing like brandy for breakfast, as you all follow Leticia, Angelica, and Rod to the bedroom that you were in with Rudy last night, where you see a tall, gaunt man in a black suit. He's got a black top hat on. Cheeks are sullen, his eyes sunken, and an almost eerie light gray color to his eyes. Rudy's already writing and holds out the pad of paper to you all, and it says, "This is our lawyer, Mr. Barlow. Stephen Barlow. Nice to meet you all." And he holds out a hand to each of you to shake your hands.
Dr. Barker, it's a pleasure.
She'll shake the hand, and there's like a firm grip to that, but he's just like staring like into his eyes.
His skin, I think you would, if not that his skin is so clammy
Oh.
and slick. It's like there's no texture to his skin except for moisture.
If he weren't a lawyer, I would find this unusual.
Fair enough. Are you all prepared to hear the last will and testament of Rudolph Eichner?
Are there still flies up around the corners?
There are.
Good grief. Okay. Lilith, by the way, she didn't shake his hand. She just kind of waved him off.
Sure. With you all assembled, he begins to read. So ensues the last will and testament of Rudolph Eichner. This task, I require my old friends, Dylan, Jeanette, and Lillian, to go to my collegiate fraternity house and recover for me the Amber Emperor. 'Tis an Egyptian relic, an insect encased in amber for which I invested a significant amount of funds, and I would like to see some amount of return on this investment. I must warn you that the fraternity has disbanded nearly 4 years since the events of 1926, and the deaths and consequent survival of that Summerfeld boy. In return for your services, I am willing to split my wealth into 5 pieces amongst you all. I only ask that 1/5 of my wealth be divided into my summer home in Lisbon, and that it would go to my loving wife Leticia. May you find the time to sort your library as you wish. And he kind of turns the page. I also ask that after my death, my housekeeper's son shall be the heir to both my name and fortune, and from that, and he stops, and you see his eyes go wide for a moment as he looks to Rudy, and Rudy nods, straightens his hat very quickly, and continues to read. Allow me to restart forgive me. I asked that after my death, my housekeeper's son shall be the heir to both my name and fortune, from that day being known as Ambrosius Eichner II, and his mother being executor of his estate, till the time comes when he might manage it under his own power. So reads the last will and testament of Rudolf Eichner.
I think at that there's just like a knowing glance from Jeanette to the rest of the party.
You're gonna get a nod in return.
Mr. Barlow turns the last will and testament on this board that it is on, holds out a pen, and gestures to the 5 witnesses, where 3 of them are marked for yours, and then 1 of them is marked for Leticia, and the last one is marked for Constance, who none of you realized was standing in the corner behind you all.
Jeanette's gonna march up and kind of looking at Rudy for a second. There's a look of sympathy there, I think, and she's gonna sign the will.
I'll go up and just a very messy signature, but it almost looks like a D and a B. Just gonna draw it. Just make this signed.
Dr. Freeman?
What happens when we don't find this Amber Emperor?
Are you asking Rudy?
It's just a general to the room question. Whoever wants to answer.
Mr. Barlow says, well, then you would violate the terms upon the wealth being split to the 3 of you as well, and it would simply be divided between Mrs. Eichner and soon-to-be Master Eichner.
And so just curiosity, if we don't find this, then they still get their money. If we die trying to find this, they still get their money?
This is the way that Mr. Eichner had bade me to formulate the terms of the will, yes? Is there something in that disagrees with you, Doctor?
And if I don't sign it, what happens?
Then the entirety of the will is null and void, and upon Rudolph's passing, his wealth will be inherited by the state of Delaware.
And how long do we have to find the Emperor?
There is no time. There is no stipulation on the amount of time.
I'd like to study.
You asked many questions for a doctor. You would like to examine Rudy's
face. I want to see his expressions as these questions are being asked.
He looks a bit concerned.
I think she's gonna walk over to his side and kind of place a hand on his shoulder. Does he have his writing implements with him?
He does.
Are you all right?
Just write on the paper. I just don't want to see the boy penniless.
He won't be. And she's gonna give like a little bit of a reach.
As far as the matter of retrieving this artifact, is it currently in someone's possession, or is this a matter of picking it up and returning it here?
Rudy quickly scrawls out. I've looked through all of the police reports. No such artifact was retrieved from the home, which must mean it's still there.
You shouldn't waste time.
Right. We can certainly have a look.
In the meantime, both Leticia and Constance will both sign the will. I require one more signature. And Mr. Barlow will look deeply into your soul, Lillian. If you please, Doctor.
Well, I think we can all agree that this is strange. We were called here after 6 years to learn that he hasn't spoken in ages. Um, the whole situation is odd, and you expect me to sign this will at the drop of a hat. Mm,
You
to
see,
go find
Rudy,
an emperor where two people have already. You're talking about a frat house where there's already been two slaughters, and I'm supposed to go obtain an amber insect.
you see,
And
Rudy writes out, I know I'm asking too much of you. At the very least, just sign the will, please. Even if you leave this place and never return. Though I hope that's not the case.
I know I've already asked a lot. This is me saying this out of character. Can I study the lawyer's face?
Sure.
I don't like the feeling of him. I don't like anything about what's going on with him. I want to
Sure.
see if he's more concerned about getting the will signed, or what's actually like going on with.
Are you trying to read a person, or are you trying to observe him?
Oh God. Yes, technically both, but we can just do read a person. I feel like that's the most apt.
Roll plus passion, then. And then I would like to point out here. Lillian, you are by no means like compelled to sign this. In fact, there's a role for you to kind of take control of the scene for a moment. And that role is called Take Control. It is a role plus might. And
11.
you can simply firmly object. And if you succeed on your role to take control, then ostensibly the issue might be dropped for now. With an 11 on reading him. The first thing I have to ask, of course, would you like to carry one forward? Would you like to ask me a question that I have to answer to your satisfaction? Or would you like to have something of the GM's prerogative?
Prerogative.
Perfect.
Surprise.
What you can tell about Mr. Barlow, first and foremost, is he seems very vacuous in this moment. He doesn't seem to be thinking about much of anything at all. In fact, I think it could be accurately summed up to he doesn't want to be here as much as Lillian doesn't want to sign this will. In fact, he seems extremely disinterested in whatever pomp and circumstances surrounding this man's death, and he wants truly little to nothing to do with what's going on here.
So realistically, somebody who's paid to be here.
Yes, you are very firmly of the camp that if he were not being paid outrageous sums from the Eichner estate, that he would not be here. And I think I will give you a point of lore for this. You notice this scarf that he's wearing around his neck is, he's kind of talking to Lillian, slips a little bit. And maybe he just has like a little extra weight in the neck. At least until it twitches and you swear you can see the pink of like a gill under a fold of his neck. Before you kind of blink and he straightens his scarf a bit.
I think, to be perfectly fucking fair, I think with everything that you've seen recently, like, it's a sleep deprivation. Deprivation.
Sure. Yeah. You haven't slept in, well, since the car ride.
And even then, it wasn't restful.
Oh no, not on those bumpy 1930s roads. Dear God, no.
No suspension.
Yeah. So, Lillian, what is your course of action?
would this fall under an intellectual dilemma?
Well, It depends on how you're invoking this intellectual dilemma. What is the impetus? What is spurring the intellectual dilemma on?
Realistically, they haven't. If she's trying to figure out why suddenly it's so important, they've gotten nothing but Christmas cards from Rudy for years. Then they get this weird letter from his wife. They come into this house where things are obviously not normal. You know, you've got the wife sleeping with the cousin and the housekeeper and the child and the flies. And everything she's read, no sleep. It's just not.
Would you with all of those being put together, why don't you go ahead and roll for me one more puzzle it out?
Okay.
Keeping in mind that amongst the party, how many points of lore do you all have collectively at this point? 2?
I also have
2?
I have 2.
So we have 6 points of lore in the whole party. Okay, go ahead and give me that roll now.
Well, wait, it would be 7. I'm sorry, because I gained a lore with rolling for Diary of a Madman.
Yes, you did.
Yes.
So with the total lore amongst you of 7, give me a puzzle it out.
12.
12. That is a critical amount of success. So, would you like to carry one forward? Would you like to ask me a question I have to answer to your satisfaction, or would you like something of the GM's prerogative?
I think I'm going to go with the question.
Okay.
Because
So
this says on a 10, I can ask 3 questions or gain a lore.
Sure.
Oh.
So, you're going to have a total of 4 questions with your option chosen for a critical success.
Okay.
So, ask your first question, please.
Which enemy that we're facing is more dangerous? Because for her right now, she's thinking about the creature that makes you stay awake and takes your brain. She's thinking about Rudy that hasn't spoken. And then there's all these people in the house. And then there's the amber insect, which for her at the moment is tying into the creature that takes your sanity by not letting you sleep.
I think it's safe to say that the Amber Emperor and the Bladergons are the most dangerous enemy here.
I don't know if I can get an answer for this, but I'm going to ask. Is there any way to know? Like, is Rudy of sound mind through all of this?
You can get an answer to that. And the answer is, though he is taking a cocktail of drugs to try and extend his life as much as possible, Rudy is neither under chemical, social, or physical pressure to act outside of his own interests. 2 more questions.
Do all of the... This is going to sound stupid. Do all of the flies fit into the I cannot say that creature's...
The Bladergons?
Thank you.
Before I answer that, would you like to more narrowly define the scope of your question?
With the things that she's found on the Bladergon and all of the reading of the bodies being taken or the people being taken, being stuck on trees, do the flies tie into that?
Flies are attracted to the people who have been fed on by Bladergons. That one question.
Probably too much to ask if the Bladergaunt is in the house.
Is there a Bladergaunt in the house? Not at the moment.
Oh, see, not at the moment. That's not fair.
And that
I
satisfies.
should have asked that one first.
That's all of the questions. This is what you puzzle out. Connecting all of these dots. And I think I'll give you one for free. You've been asking me a lot recently why this place seems like a fortress. Why they're trying to keep what's in and what is out. And I don't think it's a far stretch of the mind for an alienist to put together the one thing that connects all human beings. Well, two things. Fear and love. There are many people in this house whose love is looked down upon by the people outside of that iron gate that Rod locked behind you. And they are afraid of what those people will do to them if their love is discovered. So these are the things that you know to be true. Dr. Alienist Freeman.
She's gonna just look at Rudy for a minute. And then she's gonna look at his wife and the housekeeper. And she'll pick up the pen. I'm gonna sign this for the three of you. But should I become unable to speak, stark raving mad, or die, I would ask that, given the circumstances of not knowing this was going to happen and possibly gaining a fifth of the estate, if any of those things happens to me, I would like that fifth given to an institution that will benefit and aid in my field of study.
Mr. Barlow leans down to Rudy and whispers something in his ear, and Rudy nods. Very well. I will, upon your signature, I will head back to my office and make the amendments necessary. Do you have an institution in mind? Mr. Eichner has something of a working relationship with the asylum in Arkham. I'm sure they would love to have such a generous contribution.
Has she heard anything about the Arkham Asylum? Because I'm just seeing Batman.
You know that the town of Arkham, Massachusetts is home to two claims to fame. The first of which being the Mental Health Institute there, this asylum of sorts, which is very much a pioneer in the alienists field. You also know that the second claim to fame of Arkham, Massachusetts is Miskatonic University. It is a place of learning which specializes in fine arts, literature, things of that nature. Contemporary studies of ancient histories, things of that nature. Many alienists receive a degree from the Arkham-based Miskatonic University.
I think Arkham would be fitting.
Very well. I will make the amendments as I return to my office upon your signature.
No, she'll sign her name.
And he slips the will into a protective booklet. Very well. My business here is done. It's always a pleasure. He nods. And he absconds. And Rudy writes on his paper, "Thank you." You shouldn't waste any more time. In fact, I think that you'll find where you're going, time is less easily tracked but of greater consequence.
Great. Off we go into the labyrinth route.
He just writes, beware the king in yellow.
I really don't like you right now.
Smiles for a moment and just writes, you were always the one who spoke your mind the best.
Okay, I gotta ask.
Sure.
The books in question would not exist.
Are you talking about the collection of stories called The King in Yellow?
Correct.
If you think you would be familiar with the writings of Robert W. Chambers, there is a certain possibility that you may have read this group of short stories.
The thing with that, then she'll just pause and then just kind of think, what does that mean?
Right. I'm sorry to involve you in this, my old friends, but I've dabbled in something beyond our comprehension. And I need your help to finish what I started.
So
When you find the Agate Emperor, bring it here to me, and we will finish this together.
There is the danger that we're in. Rudy, answer me honestly. Will this be enough? And she's gonna pull her jacket aside, showing her 9mm.
He just writes, in his holy name, I hope.
You look at things you can't see, Jean.
I think at that, Jean's gonna walk out. She's already heading toward, or at least heading towards the door. She's getting going. She's moving forward. We're gonna get this done.
With any luck, friend, we will return shortly.
Lillian's gonna lean down and kiss his forehead. I'll see you on the other side.
Think at that you feel him slip something into your pocket.
Great. She's gonna wait till they get out of the house to look at it.
I assume all of you abscond down to the car garage where the valet has parked Dr. Barker's vehicle.
Yep.
Getting inside, the first thing you will notice, and I won't require a roll for this, is your belongings that were left in the vehicle look unmolested. Everything is as it was when you exited the vehicle. No evidence of foul play.
Good.
Excellent.
Before I go down to the car, I am gonna go into my room and grab the bag with the sedatives. I don't know why I think the sedatives are gonna be important, but
Sure.
I would also want to make sure my medical supplies are with me as well, just in case.
I got my medical supplies, the boot flask, and my gun.
While you are in your room, do you check what was slipped into your pocket, Lily?
yeah.
It is, funnily enough, a newspaper clipping. And it details a girl who had been lost in the woods for almost a month being found about a year ago. And her subsequent shipping off to the Arkham Asylum after reports that he had gone into some kind of realm beneath the earth where there were 30-foot tall giants and mushrooms the size of houses, and graven stone images carved into the wall of unknowable and unthinkable things.
Hmm. Is there a name of the girl in it or no?
No.
Gonna keep it in her pocket and just try to figure out, just as she's going downstairs, she's just puzzling it, trying to figure out how any of that ties into anything else.
And with that, all of you getting into the vehicle as you drive towards the gate. Of course, Rod opens the gate for you. He just gives a tip of his hat as you drive out, locking the gate behind you as you drive through. You know where you're going. You were given last evening a map that shows you where the frat house is outside of town. It seems to be down a long road in the middle of a nearby forest.
Alright, yeah. Basically gonna get there as smoothly as we can. And yeah.
Takes about a half an hour. The last 20 minutes of which is just driving through the woods in this early morning. The fog hangs thick here. Coastal Delaware forest. You can almost smell the brine of the ocean. Before finally you roll up to this quaint 2-story home. Looks to be in rampant disrepair. There are holes in the roof, vines and mosses all over the outside of this wooden structure. Maybe at some point it was painted white, but now that paint is just flecks. Stairs leading up to it are busted. The front door to the home hangs open. An eerie invitation, perhaps.
Is this the same place from Vision that I got?
Yes.
I think in that moment, if she sees that, she's going to see flashes of Vision and Rudy on his knees in front of that plate. Are we parked?
Yeah, I want to find a safe spot to park where there's a clear path forward and out if we need to quickly get into the vehicle and drive away.
You would just need to do a little U-turn at the head of the drive, and that way the car's facing back the way you came, and it's all ready to go.
Perfect.
For quick ass getaway, we need one.
We just have to be ready.
All right. Once we're parked, Jeanette is getting out of the car, pulling the guitar case out in front of both of you, flipping the latches on it, opening it up, and she pulls out a long barrel shotgun and starts loading the shells into it.
I was hoping for a Tommy gun.
It is a double barrel, so you can only load 2 shots at a time.
Got you. Oh, 2 shots, and whatever's left over is going in the pockets.
Sure, we'll say you've got about 8 slugs in your pocket.
So 10 total.
And this is where we find ourselves. Forest is still, it's strange. Not all of you live in a town, but not like a huge city or anything, so there are still, squirrels and other animals. This forest is silent. No chirping of a morning bird, no cawing of a raven or a crow. No chittering of foxes or badgers.
What are their flies?
Interesting you might mention that. Not that you can see from out here, but each of you feel this low-riding tension. This almost subsonic sound in your ears, this buzzing. The air buzzes here.
Telling you both right now, if we see anybody dressed in yellow, do not follow them. Do not go into the woods. Go the other way.
I could also show them the business end of this, as with the shotgun.
I'll take out my 38 revolver. Let's try to make this a quick trip then.
Do you have
Before,
anything to protect yourself, Lillian?
He like holds up vials of sedatives. Sedatives! I'm good. We're fine. It'll be fine. It's all fine.
Do you want something? She says as she pulls her jacket aside, showing the 9mm.
I'm fairly certain that you're a better shot with that than I am.
Very well. Stay close in.
I mean, I couldn't even shoot a BB gun when we were kids. You know, I'm horrible at this.
And with the memory of Lillian missing 13 shots in a row at a glass bottle on a fence post that was only 5 feet away, you head into the home. I will say, as you head in, you see above the door there is an old, busted sign that says Brothers in Aeternum. As you cross that threshold into the house, smell of decay is the first thing that hits you, I think. Mold, mildew, fungus. The air in here is clammy.
I have a question.
I have an answer.
Given my profession here, I mean, of course, some sense of decay here, the mold and the fungus, as you mentioned. Is there anything that I can tell that smells like human decomposition?
Ew.
Notedly, no.
Okay.
This all seems to be organic matter, but not mammalian organic matter.
Understood.
Like nature taking it back, sort of thing.
Right.
Essentially.
The brothers in Eternum. Is she smart enough to know what Eternum means?
Think so. Yes. This
Okay.
kind of philosophical realm where nothing changes. It's the idea of stasis given form.
It doesn't. That. Okay. Okay.
And as you walk into the home, you see a very dingy sitting room out before you. The presence here is almost baneful. It's every step, every gesture, every look in here is labored. But you see that there are several rotting, high-backed chairs, liquor cabinets, things of that nature, rugs, tables. You see that there's a coat hook on the wall where you see that there are several smoking jackets hang on the wall that are all blue with gold trim, and you see they have lapel pins on each of them. That is a planchette. The piece that is moved on a spirit board. And on that planchette, the letters B and A in calligraphy are emblazoned on them. If anyone would like to poke around this room, now would be the time.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. And even like using the shotgun to help her like move some stuff and shit like that. Yeah, no, we're poking around this whole fucking place. All right, or this whole room.
If you were, just gonna say this out loud. Obviously, this is important. Wouldn't you hide it somewhere? And why do I have a feeling there's a basement or an attic?
Probably in a study of some sort, where I would put it.
Yes.
Look for the most important looking room.
Are we splitting up to do this, or are we doing this together?
What happens on 2 6s?
Dark insight. You get a point of lore.
Yep. 12 plus 2, so 14. A poke around roll.
Who all is rolling to poke around in this room? Is
I
everyone
did.
rolling?
I got an 8.
8.
I need to remember what my poke around roll is. Oh, there it is. Oh, dang it!
It is plus luck, unfortunately.
Oh, I got a 5. Go me.
5 is a failure, so you will mark point of experience. And just for the record, you need 5 experience to level up in this game.
Okay.
Gotta fail 5 rolls.
If I have to keep rolling luck.
We will start with Dr. Barker. Lillian, of course, you look around. This just seems to be a dingy old sitting room. You find a cigar box full of, as you open it, just cigars covered in black mold, thick enough that you could carpet a room with it.
Ew.
Dylan, you find these brothers in Aeternum pins and smoking jackets. Seem to be... You go to one that's kind of like draped over a chair, and you see that there is a part of the sleeve that has rotted away, and around it there's this deep mold. With your medical understanding, it's more than likely that with this specific very deep mold in one spot on this jacket, whereas the mold kind of creeps in other places and has spots here and there. To molder this heavy, there would have to be the presence of some sort of increased biological agent. Your guess would be blood.
I see. So, actually, interesting that you bring that up because, where is it? I do have under one of the moves, forensic expert, so when I'm poking around corpses, it applies my reason instead of my luck.
I will say with the presence of bodily fluid, I will allow you to have used reason instead. What would that take your roll to?
So instead of so I had originally rolled a 9, with -1 to luck, that brought it down to 8. I have +2 in reason, so that would have brought it to 11.
Okay.
This move does also have another little bit here. On a 7 or higher, I gain 1 clue in addition to anything else. And it says you also gain +2 to puzzle things out about causes of death and anatomy related. Okay, that's a different thing. So
I will give you a clue in addition. Since you are now sitting at an 11, can I assume you would like something of the GM's prerogative?
yes.
Okay. And so, as you kind of look at this rotted place of blood, your eyes begin to drift and move over to the fireplace. And you see, far back against the wall, something glitter under this firewood holder beside the fireplace. Did I already say I'm going to give you a lore for this as well?
You did not.
I will give you a lore
Thank you.
as you reach underneath feel something slimy in your hand. As you pull it out, see a mostly rotted human hand. The cut that severed the hand could maybe due to rust, maybe due to the implement used. Looks very ragged. Whatever it was that cut this hand off, it was not sharp. And you see glittering around one of the fingers is a ring. And that ring, something about it's off. Doesn't look right. It feels wrong. And the more you study it, the more wrong it feels. And in this moment, I would ask you to take 1 point of shock as you study it further. These little... In this time, they would have said pictoglyphs. These little Egyptian hieroglyphs begin to move around the ring and swirl, and you get the feeling of your stomach dropping out beneath you, and you become nauseated and have to look away.
I'd like to, if I could, take the ring off of the finger and pocket it.
Sure.
To be able to investigate it further at a later time. Before turning to the other. Does anyone need a hand?
And I will
Because
say,
I found an extra.
as well as the hand having been severed at the wrist, you see that the hand was also split in the middle to about the mid palm. Moving over. Oh, yes.
It's been 4 years since the second murder in the house.
This is quite fresh.
That was my question, is how fresh is this hand?
Well, with the amount of decay, several of the fingers are skeletal. There's, when you pull it out, there's... Please forgive me for, and this is going to be a trigger warning for me describing something disgusting. There are maggots crawling around inside of the hand. The timeline matches up with 4 years of decay.
Okay.
And then for you, our dear detective, with the dark insight, so already keeping in mind that you are going to gain a point of lore for this, I need to know the big 3 questions. Do you want to carry one forward? Do you want something of the GM's prerogative? Or do you want to ask me a question that I have to answer to your satisfaction?
Prerogative.
Okay. So as you kind of root around in the smoking jackets that are hanging on hooks in the wall, you see a piece of paper tucked in to one of the jacket pockets. So you kind of reach in and pull it out. It says, "It is time for us again to take that most sacred of journeys. Meet with us at the usual place at the witching hour. We'll be waiting with the Emperor." And it is signed Tyrus Sommerfeld.
The usual place. I assume that they're meeting, based on the wording, their meeting's a specific room here or somewhere else.
I think I'll give you my thing of the DM's prerogative now. With this, you having rolled dark insight, the anchor of this place is like getting stuck in a bog. You get the feeling that they wouldn't have moved far from here whatever it is you're looking for, it's further away than you think it is, but closer than you feel like it might be. And I know that those two things in conjunction don't make much sense, but you know both of them to be true. You're making sense of things that don't make sense, that will never make sense, things that are meant to be never understood by the minds of men.
Well, they definitely had a gathering place.
Huh?
They were to meet with the Emperor at a specific location. The usual place, this note says, the witching hour.
Would you say emperor?
Yes, it's mentioned here. So it's either a specific place here, but I have a feeling, and I think as she says that, she's going to trail off. What was the surrounding area like? Just forest, right? Give me a moment, and she's going to step outside. And I think, basically, like, how big is this building, say?
I would say the entirety of this fraternity house is probably 1,200 square feet. It's not huge. It's a small, like, ranch-style home.
How many stories?
2.
Ooh.
Yeah, so basically what I would like her to do is she's going to walk the perimeter around on the outside, and as she's doing that, she's looking for anything that's going to catch her eyes.
Go ahead and roll me for poking around. But I will say, luckily for you, walking the perimeter of this is very easy because it's a wraparound porch.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, you get the feeling if this wasn't the site of 2 multiple murders, this would actually be a lovely little home. As you, with the 7, walk around, you do see that there is a back door, and looking in the back door through the dingy glass, you do see it's a kitchen. You see, I think the thing that would stick out to you, there are no, paths leading into the forest that kind of greet your eye. But I think the one thing that would stick out to you in this, like, very mid 1800s style kind of ranch house is that there's no root cellar. There's no cellar doors. Where would they have kept food cold and things of that nature? I mean, you can see that there's an icebox inside the house, but before that, this icebox is, relatively new. I mean, that technology is relatively new.
Does the back door unlock? Or is it locked at all?
Shake the handle and it is locked.
I would like to attempt to kick the door open.
Sure. So that would fall under taking control of the situation, which is a roll plus might.
Might's my 1.
Ooh, you can do it.
7 minus 1, so 6.
6 is the baseline of what you need for success. So it takes 3 good kicks, and you all hear this from the sitting room, that the back door is being kicked in. And you can see that there is a door into what is most likely the kitchen from this sitting room, if you would like to converge there as the back door gets kicked open.
I would, yeah.
Lillian's following, just shaking her head. So much for sticking together.
As
I just had a hunch that I needed to follow. Look for any way down, or She's gonna look around like one more time because she was looking more towards like the perimeter of the play, like the actual like outline.
I will say this. As you all enter into the kitchen, the scent of
flies.
decay is even heavier in here.
Great.
You see that there are holes that have rotted in the floor. You can see through them down to the, just the ground beneath you.
That's lovely.
You
I'm gonna start looking for a door or a button. She's like feeling walls. If there's no obvious door, she's gonna wander around moving things and, old mystery movie. Maybe if I move this book.
Yeah, go ahead and roll and poke around. Yeah. Anyone who would like to poke around here, go ahead and give me
Yeah,
a roll.
I'd like to as well.
5.
5 is a failure, mark a point of experience.
4.
4 is a failure, mark a point of experience.
7.
7 is a success.
Finally, with my bad luck.
So,
You did it.
as you
We
poke
did.
around, as each of you poke around, Dr. Barker and Detective Miller, you don't find anything of note in here. You find rusted old cast iron pans and cutting implements and what seems like a farewell, you're leaving the house gift of someone's mother's handwritten cookbook. Lillian, you move to the ice chest. And as you open it, just a strong waft of decay. And, I mean, this icebox is chock full of mold with hairs on it long enough to be human hairs. Just truly gut-wrenching. But you do see among them several black orbs.
This is gross. This is gross. This is gross. And she's reaching in to grab the orbs.
You reach
And
through
it's just like, ew, ew, ew.
reach through the slimy mold, and as you get your hands around an orb, truly tendrils of slime as you lift it up out. It's cool in your hands, but soft, like a soft-boiled egg.
Ew.
Slimy. And as you kind of pull it out, it undulates in your hand.
Dylan, what is this?
And as you turn, being like, what is this? And you all see it, it bursts.
Holy shit.
I am going to, Lillian, I am going to need you to take 1 level of harm.
Okay.
And I'm going to need everyone to take 1 level of shock. As this thing bursts, and you see a small bipedal thing emerge with the head of a fly, and its mouth is a proboscis that ends in this circular opening filled with teeth like a lamprey.
Drop it. And I've got my revolver pointed at it.
Its limbs are twisted and elongated, and you see that 2 small wings come out of its back, and as they quickly dry, it begins to steam this liquid. And while you're taking 1 level of harm, truly, Lillian, is that this liquid, as soon as it hits open air, turns red hot and steaming. It's a steam burn, essentially. As the wings dry extraordinarily quick and they begin to buzz like
She's trying to step on it, drop it on the floor, throw the other ones on the floor. We're gonna do some
Well,
1930s Charleston on this thing.
well, I love
I
it.
want to shoot it as soon as, as soon as I got a clear shot.
So what we're gonna do, I know this is a very high octane scene, is we're all gonna roll a d6, just a single d6, and this will determine our initiative order.
Oh no,
6.
we're in combat. Oh, I got a
5.
I got a 1.
Okay, so we got a 6, 5. This thing rolled 3, and then so Lillian will be going last, and the good detective will be going first. Detective Jeanette Miller. You see all of this happening. What is your course of action?
Where is the creature currently? It's not being held by Lillian anymore, right?
No, she dropped it at her feet.
So I assume the shotgun that I currently have, it doesn't have like it's like not one of the, it's like more like a hunting shotgun. It's not one of those ones with red as bad on it, right?
I mean, no, it's got spread. If you shoot that thing, you're gonna shoot Lillian's shins out too. However, you do have a 9mm pistol.
You
That's
shot
true.
my pinky toe. Oh, sorry.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I think then in that moment she's going to not drop the shotgun, but she will pull out the 9mm, like put the shotgun in her offhand, pull out the 9mm, take aim, and fire at it.
That is a take control. So that is a roll plus might.
I'm gonna blow off my foot.
7.
7 is a success, and your weapon, I believe, does 2 harm, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so. 9mm short, 2 harm. Yep.
So you shoot it. It blasts through this thing's carapace. A bit of green ichor splashes on the cabinet wall behind it. It shrieks out. Dr. Dylan Parker.
Is it still alive?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
Then
no.
with my 38 revolver, I would like to shoot it.
That would be a take control roll. Please roll plus might.
Mm-mm.
Okay. So my might is 0.
Oh no.
Snake eyes.
Oh dear. Now
Yep.
we get to go over what a critical failure looks like. So first off, for a critical failure, you are going to take 2 points of experience.
Okay. I'm going to take the good news as I can before all the bad news starts.
Wait.
And then?
On top of, you're going to take a debilitation of some sort.
Oh.
You are going to be affected with passivity. You
Okay.
are going to take a -1 moving forward on taking control.
Okay.
Until I say that is resolved. And you are also going to be taking -1 forward to, I believe the roll is threaten. Yes.
Okay, take control and threaten.
And as you shoot, what is the harm on your weapon? 2, I believe?
2. Yes.
Lillian, you are going to take 2 harm as the doctor fires and puts a bullet into the side of your knee.
Oh,
Really?
I'm sorry.
Critical failures have critical results. With that, it is the fledgling Bladergon's turn.
Oh, great.
It is going to roll to take control and fly up and bite Lillian. Now, I will say it does have a -2 on might, which takes its 7 to a 5, which is a failure. Perhaps its wings aren't dried enough for true flight yet. This thing is still steaming and strange as it tries to fly towards you, Lillian. Maybe the doctor shooting you saved you as you kind of low profile a little bit, and it kind of flies up and over your shoulder and hits a cabinet and clatters to the floor. It is now your turn.
Is it possible to use act under pressure so she just doesn't panic?
What would you like to do acting under pressure? What is your course of action?
You said there were cast iron skillets.
Mhm.
Is there one near her that she can grab and bash this thing with?
Sure. That would technically be taking control.
Okay.
Yeah. So that'll be a roll plus might. So you
Okay.
grab it, and you're gonna try and smash it with a pan. Give it the old Samwise Gamgee.
6 and 5 is 11. Minus 1 is 10.
10. That's critical success. So this thing is usually 1 harm. Now, that being said, with rolling a critical success on a take control, there are a different series of questions that I have to ask.
Okay.
Would you like to ask me a question and me have to answer it to your satisfaction? Would you like to do an additional level of harm, or would you like to have something of the jam's prerogative?
I'm going to do the additional level of harm.
Perfect.
Wait, it's harm to the thing, right? Not me?
Correct. Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
yes, we're doing the additional level of harm to the creature that she is automatically assuming is the god-awful thing she's been reading about.
It took 1 harm from flying up and hitting the cabinet, missing you. And as you, in your own pain and rage at the situation, grab a pan and you smash it into a puddle of green ichor with this frying pan. And in the aftermath of this, I would like everyone else to take 1 more shock. As with all of this, you all hear the floorboards behind you towards the room that you came from creak. And with a quick turn of your head, you see just the tail end of what looks like black robes move past the kitchen door. As you know intimately, you've seen something again that you shouldn't have seen. And that is where we're going to go ahead and take our break.
That is who we are. The Hakata. Blood for fucking blood.
Secrets reveal the weakness of the mighty and the sins of the righteous.
The crown of shadows will sit upon the throne of the underworld.
I want to feel Berlin open up, and then I want my mouth filled to bursting with her blood.
Did I do good? Did I do well?
Whatever you wish, Mama. Your will is my will.
You're trying to take something that's mine. I'm taking something from myself for once.
I, Tullio Giovanni, sentence you to death.
Deiner Familie kann man immer vertrauen, oder?
Some nights, when it's late and dark, when you only have candlelight perhaps to inspire your mood, you finished a long day of writing, perhaps you've had a drop to drink, perhaps not. Sometimes in those nights, you stand up and walk over to the mantelpiece where that beautiful knife is perched in display, and you feel deep inside you the desire to hunt.
There was a time a long time ago where people called me Crimson Howler. That's not who I am anymore.
You didn't find me, old man. I am no pup. I know the temptation of wolf. I have hunted it.
Rage good, but not that rage. That rage is bad. And Timber needs it to stop.
I asked you what happened.
The worm and the weaver don't care about the innocent ones.
But we should.
The Shadowbane is going to rip this city apart.
That is who we are. The Hakata. Blood for fucking blood.
Secrets reveal the weakness of the mighty and the sins of the righteous.
The crown of shadows will sit upon the throne of the underworld.
I want to feel Berlin open up, and then I want my mouth filled to bursting with her blood.
Did I do good? Did I do well?
Whatever you wish, Mama. Your will is my will.
You're trying to take something that's mine. I'm taking something for myself for once.
I, Tullio Giovanni, sentence you to death.
Deiner Familie kann man immer vertrauen, oder?
Some nights, when it's late and dark, when you only have candlelight perhaps to inspire your mood, you've finished a long day of writing, perhaps you've had a drop to drink, perhaps not. Sometimes in those nights, you stand up and walk over to the mantelpiece where that beautiful knife is perched in display, and you feel deep inside you the desire to hunt.
There was a time a long time ago where people called me Crimson Howler. That's not who I am anymore.
You didn't find me, old man. I am no pup. I know the temptation of wolf. I have hunted it.
Rage good, but not that rage. That rage is bad, and Timber needs it to stop.
I asked you what happened.
The worm and the weaver don't care about the innocent ones.
But we should.
The Shadowbane is going to rip this city apart.
That is who we are. The Hakata. Blood for fucking blood.
Secrets reveal the weakness of the mighty and the sins of the righteous.
The crown of shadows will sit upon the throne of the underworld.
I want to feel Berlin open up, and then I want my mouth filled to bursting with her blood.
Did I do good? Did I do well?
Whatever you wish, Mama. Your will is my will.
You're trying to take something that's mine. I'm taking something for myself for once.
I, Tullio Giovanni, sentence you to death.
Deiner Familie kann man immer vertrauen, oder?
Some nights, when it's late and dark, when you only have candlelight perhaps to inspire your mood, you've finished a long day of writing, perhaps you've had a drop to drink, perhaps not. Sometimes in those nights, you stand up and walk over to the mantelpiece where that beautiful knife is perched in display, and you feel deep inside you the desire to hunt.
There was a time a long time ago where people called me Crimson Howler. That's not who I am anymore.
You didn't find me, old man. I am no pup. I know the temptation of wolf. I have hunted it.
Rage good, but not that rage. That rage is bad, and Timber needs it to stop.
I asked you what happened.
The worm and the weaver don't care about the innocent ones.
But we should.
The Shadowbane is going to rip this city apart.
Welcome back, viewers. Hello. As we went into break, I did, for all of your clarity, I gave one more lore to each of the characters for seeing something that shouldn't have been seen here. But as we pan back in, you see the tail end of those robes flash by the door, and the floorboards creak.
I do have a quick question here on how I would go about doing this, but, well, I shot our friend here, and I have a bag of medical supplies, so am I able to...
I do believe that is your lore ability. If you would like to read your lore ability for us, that would be most helpful.
Yes, so the lore move that I have is Emergency Triage, and it says you may quickly attempt to heal a wounded person in any situation, roll plus luck. On 10+, heal 2 segments, 7 and 9, heal 1. On a 6 or less, I may choose to either not heal or heal 1 segment, but if I choose the latter, the keeper gains 1 hold to use as a hard move at any time. So is that you in this instance?
That is me. I am the keeper, yes. And what a hold move is I can essentially just tell you no.
That's fair. Well, I'd like to try that if that's all right with
Sure.
Lillian.
You do need to spend 1 point of lore to use a lore ability.
That's totally fine. Is that all right with you, Lillian?
Better fix it.
It could. It dealt 2 levels of harm to you. If your roll's good enough, it could essentially have you good as new.
With luck, grand total of 3. Now it does say here I can choose to either not heal or to heal 1 segment, and if I choose the latter, then you get the a hold to use as a hard move at any time.
Yes.
I'm gonna go ahead and take that so that way we heal at least some of the damage that I had done.
Sure. As you kind of look into the good alienist's condition, you manage to get the bullet out, which is a very solid start. It did not pass through. Luckily enough for Lillian, the bullet did not fragment.
American made.
It's painful, Lillian, but the bullet does come out.
The head.
Given a bit of bandaging, your harm is reduced by 1. Now I do need to ask, what level of shock is everyone at? Out of 10.
2.
5.
4.
5. Perfect. 2, 4, and 5. Wonderful. That brings us to an interesting point, because 5 is halfway, Dr. Parker, which is the first threshold. That starts to get interesting, but nothing in the current moment.
I see. A surprise for later.
Yes, it's a secret tool I plan on using very soon. So, this is where you're at. The figure moved past, moving down the hallway. Are you following?
We probably should.
That's my frying pan.
Sure.
The other orb things. Can I smash them before we go?
You could smash them, but I think something else might come to mind.
I'm gonna stick them in my pocket and make them my friends?
No,
You see that you're in the kitchen. Yeah, there are several bottles of alcohol in here. Old, concentrated.
Quite flammable.
Quite flammable indeed.
We're gonna set them on fire? Got it.
It's a steel ice chest. If you
So
pulled it out from the wall a little ways, it wouldn't burn the cabinets above it. Everything is quite wet in here anyway, so...
And we can kick the door closed if we need to.
Well, Dylan, will you help me move this? Put those back. We're gonna... Yeah, quickly, if we can. Do you need a roll? Or...
No, No,
Okay.
with two of you doing it, you pull the ice chest out, douse it in some alcohol, light a match, and it goes ablaze relatively easily. There are screams and chitters from inside of the ice chest. The sound of several of these eggs popping.
Okay, let's go.
And you head out and follow the figure. Now, this hallway comes to a T, an unconventional T. To the left, there's a door, and to the right, there's a staircase leading up to the second floor.
We didn't hear a door close, did we?
No, but the door's open.
Oh, well, that would explain why we didn't hear it close.
It didn't.
See, I could be a detective.
I believe in you. You said it went upstairs?
Yes.
Yeah. I'll take the lead. Follow everybody. Stay behind. And she's gonna pull out. She's gonna put her 9mm back in its holster for now, and just keep the shotgun up and ready. And we're going up the stairs.
I'd like to take up the rear, and I'm gonna keep my sights trained behind us, like on that open door, just in case.
You do hear from that open door the kind of like hollow scratching of maybe like a phonograph that has been kind of left to do its thing.
Curious.
But
Jean, can we shut the door? Should look at Dylan. Can you shut the door before we go upstairs?
I suppose. I'll walk over and, keeping the gun trained on the room, while I reach, just in case there's anything. Yeah, with my free hand, I'm gonna grab the door, keep the other hand to be free to keep the weapon trained to where I need it to be.
Sure. And kind of as you get a look inside the rooms, you shut the door. You do see that there's a phonograph in the corner with the record spinning. You see that it seems to be a library of sorts, but it's very like Egyptian. You see some like you see some urns and other things kind of on tables and shelves, but you shut the door, and the lot of you proceed to head upstairs. Upstairs, where there is essentially a long central hallway that spans the breadth of the house, and it seems that this is where all of the bedrooms are. I would like each of you to go ahead and give me a poke around really quick.
9.
9.
5.
5. Mark a point of experience, Doctor.
6.
6 is a success. So we will start with the good detective, I think. Jean, as you open the doors to one of the rooms, you can see that, very much like that smoking jacket, the bed at the center of it has rotted significantly more than the rest, probably due to the presence of there having been a bodily fluid there at some point. And looking around very quickly, you can determine that this is the room of person who they committed for the Sommerfeld murders. Or at least Sommerfeld being the boy who survived. This is the room of Thomas McPherson. See one where he's writing to a wife across the country in Oregon about just inquiring as to the health of their little girl. And that he's enjoying his education here. He's learning so many things that will help them continue the fight back home. In fact, and you eventually then find his diary, which goes into it reads like a how to conduct cult activities for dummies, where he talks about a ritual which can be used to attune oneself to the demon Sultan and gain, quote unquote, the clarity that which only the nucleus of the universe may have. Essentially,
they're looking for more for unearthly knowledge.
Yes, essentially a ritual that would give one the knowledge that only the epicenter of all that exists might have. Omniscience.
That's got to be what they were talking about, and this has to be what they were meeting for. In that note.
Lil's gonna peek over her shoulder. What? What?
Yeah. Does this make any sense to you? I'm gonna show you the same thing.
Lillian, it looks almost like Charles Piedmont's level of insanity being written down here. You've seen The Diary of a Madman, and this seems to be another one. Perhaps a useful addition to your collection.
This sort of kind of flipping through it, going, this is another journey into madness. She's flipping, kind of looking for anything resembling the creatures she's read about already. It's like, is there?
So whereas Charles Piedmont's diary reads like a monster hunter's journal, Thomas McPherson's reads as How to Be a Sorcerer 101. He describes in vivid detail blood sacrifices to enact magic, of quote-unquote sealing the walls of reality against the incursions of Carcosa, things of that nature. He also describes being guided along this journey by, quote-unquote, the curator of the galaxy.
But she read in Charles's journal about the labyrinth of Carcosa.
Indeed. That is truly where you link what could turn into a very fascinating, making you famous case study. Perhaps this is a folie à deux, a delusion shared by two people, which, as uncommon as it is, would be made even more uncommon by almost 100 years of difference in time between the two of them. This could be the case study that takes you from an alienist working in a small office in your home in the middle of podunk nowhere, Massachusetts, to being a name held in national esteem.
So she'll quickly explain to them the links between the journal from before that she told them and this journal, and the keywords, and how one is the madman's, but this is the creator of the madness. It feels like they were opening the doors for these creatures. Okay, we just found them in the refrigerator.
I do have a counterpoint to that, actually, or rather a correction, if
okay.
I might. In this journal, he describes shoring up the boundary between this realm and the next. The people that were here were trying to keep this shit from happening. They were trying to make sure the door stayed shut, not opening the door.
But is it logical for her to, in just a quick couple minutes, to go, this is, and then with lack of sleep, is it logical for her to think that they were trying to close it or that they were trying to open it?
They were 100% trying to close it.
Okay.
It seems like they were doing the more metaphysical side of what Charles Piedmont was doing, where Charles Piedmont actively hunted the monsters. These brothers in Aeternum under the guidance of this Thomas McPherson, it seems we're trying to make sure that they didn't need monster hunters, that monsters never crossed the boundary into this reality.
Okay. So, correction on what she said. Not opening. Apologies. Got excited.
So, what's the actual full? Like, so they're trying to keep things closed.
Yes,
They're
they
trying
were.
to
They were trying to
stop
shore
it.
up the boundaries of reality.
Oh, sorry, I'm dumb. So the initial one was trying to force things open to gain knowledge, and the other one was and the others were trying to keep things.
No,
Other way around.
Charles Piedmont, the first journal that Lillian had access to. Charles Piedmont was, in his delusion, a monster hunter. These things that crossed the boundary into reality, he hunted them and killed them. Whereas these brothers in Aeternum, it seems, their goal was a little bit more metaphysical. Their goal was to keep the boundaries of reality so tight that monsters never came into this reality.
Okay.
It's kind of
almost
two
like
sides.
Guardians.
Yes, very much two sides of the same coin. And much to Lillian's question earlier, their name, Brothers in Aeternum, this realm of stasis, this realm of perfected order, right? Leads to the jump of they were trying to create Aeternum here on Earth, to shore up the boundaries of reality, for everyone to live as long as they wanted, to banish death, like the idea of everything being in a sort of controlled stasis. However, Lillian, you did make your own poke around roll that you succeeded on, and I would like to get to that.
Yes, sir.
So as we all postulate on that, and start checking out some of the other rooms, Lillian, you find the room of Tyrus Sommerfeld, survivor.
No.
And the first thing that you see is there is, as you're poking around the room, there's obviously a floorboard that can be pried up that it seems like the police missed. Because that board and what might be under it was nowhere in the police reports that you read just last night. And as you open it, you see that there is a gorgeous, maybe 1.5 foot long mahogany scepter with brass accoutrement, and at the top there is a onyx dodecahedron, a 12-sided geometrical shape. And you see at the bottom, at the pommel rather, it seems to be key of some sort. And you also find in this room, on kind of tucked into one of the books, a note.
What's it say?
Inside of this journal of Tyrus Sommerfeld, which seems to not be particularly maddening of its own, a lot of it accounts the life of a young man who just wanted to be a part of something bigger than himself. It seems he was probably a bit of a dullard, if you're being honest with yourself. You're an alienist, you have to look at these things objectively. It looks like his interests were wood carving and bird watching. Like he just wanted to be a part of something interesting because he'd lived an entirely uninteresting life up until the point. But in that note, he denotes a journey that he took with his brothers in Aeternum. That doesn't describe the contents of the journey, just that they went on a journey, and it says at the end, the emperor must be chilled in the water there, so that his slumber shall remain unabated.
So she's like, there's got to be some way under this house.
Under?
Well,
There's a chamber deep in the earth. The emperor apparently has to be in slumber there.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't we see, like, holes in the floor leading down in the kitchen?
You did.
I see.
But it was just flat ground beneath you.
Oh, it was just flat ground.
And I think at that point,
what?
You all hear from downstairs, the phonograph begins playing a song.
What's the song?
Song you had just heard recently, Lillian. In fact, you've all heard this tune whistled by the mailman, Harold. That track being...
Not about communists?
No. That track being When the Town Goes Dry by W.M. Jerome and Jack Mahoney. Every day'll be Sunday when the town goes dry. It's playing loud down in that study library.
It's strange. I closed the door.
And you just saw it a moment ago. The record was still on, but the needle was at the center where it just, plays that kind of scratching. Someone lifted the needle and started playing the record.
Yes, I think we might have company downstairs. Someone with a taste for music.
She does show them both the scepter that she found, just to make sure that that's clear.
Okay.
We're keeping the journals.
This might be a long shot. Well, let me open the book really. There's one thing. This is considered. Well, I mean, would it be considered finding a way down? Would it be considered an intellectual dilemma?
I think it could be.
Because I think we can puzzle things out.
Sure. Yeah, give me a puzzle things out.
With the clues that we've received, the visions that we've seen.
Sure.
This is...
And if the two of you would like to help, you can roll plus... I believe help and hinder is luck? No, roll plus trust.
The 6...
Yeah, I believe it was trust.
Yes, so roll plus your trust with Jeanette, as we have a meeting of the minds here.
As a note, I rolled a 6, plus a 3, plus a 2, 11.
I also got an 11.
I have a 10.
11.
Everyone got critical successes, so also on top of your roll, you're going to get your trust from both. I believe Lillian's trust for Jean is 3, and the Good Doctor's trust is 2?
Correct.
So you're going to add another 5 to that, Jean.
Another 5, so that was 11 plus 5, so that's 16.
Now I'm going to assume all of you would like something of the GM's prerogative in this moment.
Yep.
Would that be a fair estimate for all 3 critical successes?
For me, yes.
For Jeanette, how about for Lillian?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what I will give all of you, so I'm going to give everyone the bonus of a dark insight. So everyone across the board is going to get 1 lore as well.
Okay.
As you begin putting these things together, this is what you can all puzzle out between the 3 of you. There's a resonating chamber deep within the earth. You have now a key that was hidden away scepter, this occult artifact that is also doubling as a key. This was hidden away. Why? Because they didn't want someone to find the door. Where would a door be important enough to go to that they wouldn't want anyone to find it? Potentially this resonating chamber, right? Where's the only room in this house that you haven't checked? Study.
Like I mentioned earlier, fuck. God damn it.
You walked past it to go upstairs.
I did.
But if you wouldn't have walked past it to go upstairs, you wouldn't have found the key to the door.
True.
We would have had to go upstairs regardless.
Close that door.
It's a typical survival horror moment of, you know, oh damn, well I'll need the key to get the door, or it's like, oh damn, I got the key, now I need to find a door to do it. It's like, yeah.
Precisely. Precisely. So, is it a fair assumption that you are all making speed downstairs?
Correct. At least for Jeanette.
Again, I'll take up the rear, kind of keeping my eyes like glancing back and forth between in front, but also behind us.
Wonderful.
This whole thing with controlled stasis and people not sleeping.
Possible there was some degree of success.
Okay. Just wanted to check.
It's also the ravings of a madman, so who's to say?
Yeah.
So, as you head down into the study, this study is equally as dingy and clammy as the rest of it, but it is almost stomach churning in its strangeness, in its oddity. There are books all along the bookshelves. Like I said, the gramophone sits in the corner, and when the town goes dry is still playing, though you see no evidence of any person having been in the room.
Curious.
I would like everyone to poke around for me really quick.
Certainly. 4.
Oh.
7.
Don't eat that.
4. That's another point of experience for the good doctor. What'd you roll, Rachel?
7.
Jeanette, okay, that's a clue. Perfect.
7. Give me the dice.
And
Sorry.
7 for the good alienist. So, this is what you all find as you move through here. We will start with the good detective. As you kind of look through these books, kind of looking around, detective, you find solid evidence that the founders of this fraternity, including one Rudolf Eichner,
founders?
Indeed, this fraternity wasn't around for very long. It seems that the year of founding was 1921. This fraternity didn't even last 10 years. It
The
lasted
first time. What were they before then, if not this fraternity?
Their origin comes from an occult society functioning within the upper echelon of tenured staff at Miskatonic University in Arkham, Massachusetts.
Okay, so this is kind of just like a little more just like insight into my character, and this is just kind of like, maybe you guys will pick up on it, but in this realization, like in that kind of like just how things are kind of going, there's an air of excitement that Jeanette's feeling alongside the fear.
Would you like me to go into a little bit more specificity?
Ooh, sure. I always like lore.
The fraternity specifically focusing on, quote, standing as staunch enemies to the cults of Hastur and denying the expansion of his realm of Carcosa. Now, Lillian, what you find as we leave the good detective to ponder this for a moment is that amidst these things in here, everything in here is heavily bent towards studying Egyptian occultism, up to and including several historically accurate recreations of mummies of cats, birds, rats, dogs, and things of that nature. Like true mummies of them in this room. Spirit guides And with your knowledge of history, being an educated woman, that's what animals were mummified for, is to guide one into the realms of the spirit. Now, Egyptian occultism also says that these were to bring you there after your death. But that's neither here nor there. And I will say, as you poke around but fail to find anything of note, good doctor, you go to pull out a book, and one of the bookshelves swings free from the wall.
Oh.
And in the center of this stone archway with these stone doors, there's a keyhole. And this stone archway is littered with pictographs and Egyptian hieroglyphs.
So, looking at these, do these seem to match that ring that I found earlier?
Oh, do they?
Curious.
The only repetitious one that you see is at several points through these pictographs of animals and changing phases of the sun and moon. You see that there is a completely black silhouette of a person at several points.
Curious. That scepter you found earlier, will that fit here?
Do we really want it to? Really?
Considering everything else, it's worth a try.
All right, but you guys got to promise me that when we're done, I get to come back and collect some of these books because, yeah, my life may change. So she's going to try to put the scepter into this hole.
And certainly the pommel of this scepter fits into the keyhole. And each of the stones begins to rotate until they fit into the wall on either side. And you see a stairwell leading down. And as the door opens, torches begin to light on both sides of the hall, going down a very, almost turquoise blue all the way down the hall. And it keeps going for, honestly, until you lose sight.
If she takes the scepter out, what happens after everything's open?
Everything rotates back to being shut and the keyhole appears in the center again.
You realize we have to leave this scepter here, which means somebody could lock us down here?
If it locks us down here, we could just remove it. If there's a way to lock something, there's a way to unlock something too. And sometimes the mystery may be worth the risk. What if this ritual, these items that we're finding, what if that's what Rudy wants them for? So that we could, I don't know, keep whatever the fuck that thing was upstairs, keep whatever it's connected to it out of where we are.
Now, Dylan, I did say that you had met the first threshold.
You did.
And yes. I did say that there was something with that.
Yes.
You hear your mother's voice down the stairwell. Come on, Dylan. Find me. Find me. I'm here. I'm waiting. Find me. And you feel compelled to go.
I think I hear someone. Perhaps we could use some of the books from the shelves and stack them along the edge so that it will prop the door open.
Is there enough time for us to get through the opening? Like if it opens, she pulls
you can
scepter
enter
out
and then pull the scepter out. Yeah.
So they could go through with the scepter
yes.
and pray that there's an opening on the other side.
Yes.
Okay.
And there is indeed a keyhole on the other side as you enter and turn around and look at it.
Okay.
I'll start going down the stairs.
Sure. And as you begin to descend, it's strange. You walk for a long time. It feels like it could be hours, days. You don't get tired. But the further you go down, the further up it is to the ceiling. Until at some point, you head down so far that you see only darkness above you. The light doesn't even touch the ceiling any longer. And you begin to see these graven images into the walls, these man-like things, but their face is almost fish-like. See gills in their necks. And as you keep pressing forward, you see other strange, unintelligible things, star charts carved into the walls of that don't make any sense. There's images of insect-like things with big bulbous protrusions from the tops of their heads. In fact, as this journey continues and you finally get to the bottom of the stairs, the path forward is certainly jarring. The air is clammy. It smells fetid down here. There's fungus growing on the walls, glowing green and golden fungus. You see that there are tall monoliths, 20 feet tall monoliths inscribed with hieroglyphs. The path here is marked and lined with stones that alternate in the colors of blue, white, green, and red as it moves forward through a fungal forest. Mushrooms as big as trees, glowing ever slightly gold and green, just enough that the path can remain visible.
This is where the little girl was.
The little girl?
He put a clipping in my pocket when I left. Rudy. There was a little girl lost, and they just found her, and she's in Arkham, talking about a realm beneath the earth where there's giant mushrooms and
That was with the right. That was with the notes that we puzzled out together in the grouping, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Having this conversation as you're kind of unwittingly realizing that you're moving while talking, this level of kind of subconscious exhaustion, you don't know how long you walk. Time stretches. You watch the good doctor grow a beard to match his glorious mustache. You walk for months, years, decades, maybe feeling the wear of your own bodies. Over the years, you pass giants, 40-foot tall humanoid creatures that walk past. You have to hide under these mushrooms so that in hope they don't notice. You see the buzzing of giant insects flying through the sky. You've gone far beyond the edges of anything that makes any sense. Any memories of home are dulling, fading. Time. But eventually, you follow this path after years of journeying, subsisting off of these mushrooms down here. Path leads to an archway in the stone. And you all get the distinct feeling that beyond this archway, there is little hope of emerging as the person who entered. In fact, you're beginning to think that the person who walked down those steps the people that were friends with Rudolf Eichner, they might not even exist anymore. With that being said, you're standing here faced with this entrance in the stone. Do you enter through this archway?
We came this far.
There's no going back now.
As you enter,
The work is done.
it is eerie. Again, just kind of like when you entered the house for the first time. You haven't felt this sensation in decades. Feels like. It is eerie in here. Your every move is arrested. It feels like pushing through sludge, working through a bog. The very air in here is oppressive by its very nature. As you walk out onto sort of a series of rope ladder walkways over the surface of still water. The water is dark, and I think you all kind of realize by the dome of the ceiling here, this must be a perfectly globular room. A resonating chamber.
This isn't natural, fully constructed.
No, this is natural.
Natural?
As natural as anything that you've seen in the last decades journeying through this underworld. It's as natural as the giants. Maybe you're beginning to think that you are the thing that is unnatural here.
Well, that's unsettling.
And
Strangers in a strange land.
in the water beneath you, as dark as it is, the chill in the air alone is enough to see one's breath. Glittering deep within the water. Soft amber glow.
Oh.
Forgot to go in. Well, unless anybody else wants to take up the...
I'll go in. You can both. I'm assuming that you still have your guns.
It's under the water.
Yes.
Guns are going to be useless.
But you can be up here in case something happens. Let's remember, the Emperor must be chilled in the water. If he's holding this, the Amber Emperor is what we're after. But the Emperor was supposed to be chilled in the water, so his slumber may be a bad. Okay, I'm going in.
Well, I was never much of a swimmer, but...
No. Stay here.
All right.
I'll take up the sentry position with the shotgun out, just in case. I'm also going to be periodically watching Lillian. If something goes wrong, I want to jump in.
Sure.
Yeah, same. A sentry position opposite, so that way I can watch her back as well as help watch Lillian.
Very well.
Leave her to her little journal. Here's my journals that we collected. Here's my frying pan.
Sure. And Lillian, as you dive into the icy, frigid water, I would like you to make me an acting under pressure roll. I think would be fitting for what you're about to do.
Thank God it doesn't involve luck.
No, this one involves reason, luckily.
Oh. 10.
10, that is a critical success. So, I gotta ask, do you want to ask me a question that I have to answer to your satisfaction? Do you want to carry one forward, Or would you like something of the Keeper's prerogative?
What was carry one forward again?
You get to add 1 to your next die roll.
No, let's go with your prerogative. It's always been so much fun.
Ooh, great. As you dive into the water, Lillian, I need to ask you a question. What do you think Lillian's fondest memory with Rudy is?
I'm going to say from the little bit that I've seen of them, just them sitting and sharing stories and talking.
Maybe a particular story where he got very energized and really kind of got up on his soapbox and really spun a yarn. Of course, when Lillian emerges from this pool, that memory will be gone. For those of you who remain on the surface, the air begins to buzz as pouring through the entrance, dozens of these fully man-sized bladergons begin pouring in through the entrance. I need to know what your plan is. There's dozens of them flying in the air at this point.
I'll have my shotgun. I think I'm gonna wait until they get close enough within range, like lethal range that I know of at the very least, to pull the trigger. I'm gonna go through as much ammo as I need. I have
cool.
10 full rounds and pulling out the 9mm.
Absolutely.
Oh, sorry.
I will allow you in this one scenario to pull both triggers at the same time if you would like. To essentially turn 3 harm into 6 harm. But it's going to run through twice the ammo.
If it's needed, sure.
So I would like both of you, if you're both firing here and trying to hold ground for your companion beneath the water, I need to take control rolls from each of you. Roll plus might.
Okay. So I do want to shift my positioning a little bit so that way Jean isn't in my line of fire.
Sure.
So more side by side so that I'm firing downrange without
back to back. I love it.
Any allies in that way. I do still have the debilitation from earlier, so the -1 on take control and threat.
Correct.
And I know I still have that one thing from using the health kit earlier, the one where you can basically just tell me no. But
Sure.
you haven't told me no yet, so I'm gonna roll.
Yeah, go ahead and roll. I will not be using the hold on you yet.
2 5s, -1, so 9.
9?
Because of that -1, that brought me down to 5.
So you shoot, missing. Detective, you pull both triggers. It's deafening in this resonating chamber. It is truly a resonating chamber. Every fire of this gun sounds, of either gun, sounds like standing directly beside a lightning strike. Each shot is deafening in its cacophony. It sends ripples across the water that are strong enough that sprays of water are flying up the sides of this resonating chamber. Jeanette, you blast one out of the sky as it hits the water, splashes up over this cold water, shooting. I need another act under pressure roll from you swimming down. This pool is very deep, Lillian. 12. This is another success, so I have to ask again. Prerogative, carry one forward or ask me a question to your satisfaction.
I'm going to carry one forward.
Perfect. As you swim deeper, I need to ask you another question.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think Lillian's preeminent ambition is?
Get further in her field?
Absolutely. As you swim deeper, that ambition in mind, suddenly your field matters very little anymore. What matters is surviving. And as you reach out your fingers brushing this amber glow, we go back up another take control roll from the two of you, please.
Understood.
I'm going to roll for the later gods. Oh, shit.
There's
12.
8.
8.
8. Okay. So, each of you, again, blasting one out of the sky. Boom, boom, more of these. You know, fucking the water splashing, cacophonous booms. Everything is insanely overwhelming. At this point, each of you having suffered 2 of these, I'm actually going to inflict a level of harm on each of you. Your ears are bleeding from the cacophony. Burst eardrums. As you look down, specifically on your side, Dr. Dylan Barker, and you see that one of these Bladergonts has landed on the ledge, and with its teeth you see just in time for it to gnaw through the last support of the rope bridge. As it snaps, and both of you fall into the water.
Oh.
Oh.
Now the Bladergonts rolled a 12. So
Oh.
you're each going to take another 2 levels of harm. As they come in, biting at your head and neck, and holding you under the water.
That's rude.
My mind's at -1. Jeanette can't physically fight very well.
Going back to Lillian down at the bottom of the pool. I need 1 more act under pressure, please.
9.
9. As you swim down and you see this small glowing piece of amber at the bottom of this pool with something inside of it. It's hard to see. The water's so cold. Your limbs are numb. You're frigid. So much so that you haven't noticed that you've taken 5 levels of harm.
Oh.
Swimming to the bottom of this pool just from hypothermia setting in. You wrap your hands around this piece of amber. I need to know. Did Lillian expect to return home from this adventure?
No, she didn't. That's why she had them. That's why she said what she said. That's what she said. Take my portion and do something with it. She wasn't expecting to come back.
As you wrap your hand around it, part of you understands Charles Piedmont just a little bit more. This drive that he had. This delusion to survive against all odds, to hunt the things that hunt you, to take back your power from whatever lies beyond the edges of this universe. You have to return. You have to make this stop. And as you kick off from the bottom, swimming up, you see your friends fighting against whatever is holding them under the water. And as you emerge, hand first, with the Amber Emperor in your hand, there is a screeching, it almost sounds like nails against a chalkboard, but inside of a reverberating chamber. It is the sound of the boundaries of reality being clawed at and reshaped and reformed as all of these Bladergonts sizzle out of existence in the air. As soon as the Emperor breaches the surface. And you see that where they broke off the rope ladder, it hangs down into the water for you to climb out. Your journals are perched precariously, beginning to slope down to fall into the water, but you can grab them before they hit the water. Assume each of you is going to climb your way out.
Attempt to, yeah.
Each of you is going to take an additional 1 harm from the chill of the water.
Just to let you know, Keeper, that puts me at 7.
You are severely hampered, injured. As you all climb out, you have the Amber Emperor.
I think not even caring about like the damage that she's inflicted. She's just checking in on Lillian. Are you all right?
I got it.
We need to get the hell out of here. We don't know when more of those fucking things are gonna come. We need to go. We need to go right now.
Yes, yes. Let's go.
As you head on, the journey back is very much like the journey forward, but in reverse. Now, while that sounds like a funny way to just say you return, the dilation of time turns into a constriction. You feel like just a minute passes by, like you take 4 steps and you're back at the bottom of those stairs. And then another few seconds at the top of the stairs, you look around and you see each other as you were what felt like decades ago. You find yourselves not a single one of you dripping wet. The only wound that remains on either of you, though the harm still remains, and the shock still remains, but the only wound among any of you is, well, a bandaged bullet wound in Lillian's knee. You're standing there with the scepter in your hand at the door. It was all some kind of blur, some kind of dream, some kind of something at the edge of what should be and what is. I would like each of you to take one more shock. What does that put everyone at?
5.
6.
3.
6 and 3. Now, good detective, you've also now reached your first threshold. I'll keep that in my pocket for later. Do you use the scepter to open the door?
Yes, sir.
So you do. Entering back into that study. You see that the sun, through the windows out into, the forest, the sun has to be hanging decently high in the sky because the fog is gone. See the vehicle sitting out front?
How big is the Amber Emperor?
About the size of a tennis ball.
Great. Going in her cleavage.
Sure.
Not taking a chance.
Sure.
Scepter in one hand, Emperor in the cleavage.
That sounds like a great band name, Emperor in the Cleavage. So,
and my journals.
So what are we doing? What's the plan?
Well, we have what we came for. I think it's best that we hurry back.
Yeah, let's not waste any more time.
Head out to the car, hop in, and start driving towards Bedlam. It doesn't take long.
Faster this time.
Quite a bit faster. However, as you start reaching the edge of the town, you can all sense that something is very wrong. You see that people are out in the streets. Several buildings are burning. People are fighting in the street. They're throwing bricks, throwing trash cans. Some kind of madness has taken here. And I am going to need the driver of the vehicle to give me... Now, I will abate your -1s moving forward.
Understood.
Go ahead and give me take control. So roll plus might as you're driving the car. You're gonna have to plow through people to get through the streets.
All right, here we go.
People begin throwing bricks at the car. If we would like, if the other two of you would like to roll help or hinder.
Sure.
Yes, please.
I'll roll help.
I've got 8 currently.
Well, there's going to be 2 rolls made here. So I'm going to be rolling for people trying to stop the car. Now, someone can roll to hinder that while someone rolls to help Dylan drive the car.
Hey, I got the guns. Do you want me to hinder the fucking people trying to stop us?
If you would like to roll hinder with using your guns, I think that's absolutely something fair to do.
Yep.
I will help then.
8.
All right. So you're starting out with an 8. So roll plus trust for both of you, whatever your trust is with Dylan.
Trust with Dylan is 2. Ooh. 10.
So would you like to give Dylan, or would you like to hinder them an extra 1? Would you like to ask me a question that I have to answer to your satisfaction, or would you like something of the GM's prerogative?
Prerogative.
Perfect. All right. I will hold on to that, and I will be hindering them by 2.
I rolled a 9, and my trust with Dylan is a 3, so 12.
So would you like me to answer a question to your satisfaction? Would you like to carry one forward, or would you like something of the GM's prerogative?
I think I'm going to carry one forward.
Perfect.
Again.
I love it. I love it. So, Dylan, you're going to add 3 to your roll.
Okay, so that'll bring it up to an 11.
You rolled an 11. I rolled 8 initially, and with the hinder of 2 reduces to 6. So this being a contested roll, you are going to win because they rolled a success, but you rolled a critical success. So, I need to know if you'd like to carry one forward, if you'd like to ask me a question up to my satisfaction, or if you'd like something in the GM's prerogative.
I'll go with prerogative again.
Wonderful. All of you choosing prerogative for these rolls. Each of you is going to gain another point in lore. Jeanette, you are firing at these people trying to surround the car. Lillian, you're pointing out directions that in alleys that Dylan can pull the car through to get to the Eichner estate quicker. You're plowing through people, Dylan. You're hitting people with your car. You're running people over. It's not pretty, but they are trying to stop you, and you're having to do whatever you have to do. As you roll through, you see the Eichner estate coming up. You don't see Roderick at the door, at the gate. You're going to have to plow through the gates.
That's what I was
It's
thinking.
going to leave your car needing some great repair.
I mean, to be fair, it was going to need some repairs anyway after mowing down some people, so...
So what's
at
a few
least
more?
a new paint job.
As you crash through the gate, behind those of you in the back seat, you see that there's a mob of people running, following you, trying to get at you. As you pull in, skidding to a stop, sort of taking the edge off of this huge ornate fountain as you kind of spin out of control after busting through the gate, water pouring out of this fountain onto the ground. The front door opens and you see Roderick with a Tommy gun at the door.
Yay, Tommy gun. Sorry.
He looks out. Right then, inside now. We've got business to attend to, yeah?
Yep, don't have to tell me twice. I'm going to make a sprint for the door.
As you all get inside, he pulls the bar lock behind you. Immediately, smash! People smash into it. You see Angelica, forgive me, has cut one of her fingers and she is making symbols in blood around the door. And Roderick busts out the window with his Tommy gun and just starts unloading. He says, right then, go upstairs. Find Mr. Eichner. Do what you need to do. And he's just blasting away out the window.
Alright.
Heading up to the bedroom.
Sprinting, moving through all of the madness, you see that Constance is just kind of holding Ambrosius in one of the corners, just kind of keeping his head into her shoulder, just rubbing his hair, telling him everything's going to be fine. As you bust into Rudy's bedroom. And he kind of looks at all of you and just nods for the first time, begins to push himself up out of the bed. He's weak. He's frail. You can see his knees shake when he stands.
I go over and help him.
Sure. And then he points to one of the side tables, and as you lead him over, he opens it and begins to take out candles, implements, crystals, chalk, ash, an obsidian blade about yay length. He begins to place everything. He looks and speaks for the first time in years. The Emperor, if you brought him. Of course you have. The entire town has gone mad. Where is it? Place it in the center of the circle. And he begins to sprinkle ash around the center of the circle.
Lillian's got the scepter in one hand, reaches into her bra, pulls out the Emperor. What are we doing?
And as you sit it down, really getting a good look at it for the first time, it looks like an insect inside of it at first glance, maybe some kind of mosquito or something of that nature. Until you realize that it's comprised entirely of fractal shapes. These strange geometric patterns. It doesn't look like it should be a living thing. It looks like something that an architect drew. Like impossible angles, and it hurts your brain to look at. Everyone take another point of lore and take one more shock.
Avery trying to kill us with shock.
I'm at 7 shock.
I'm at 6.
Now, as you ask Rudy what you're supposed to be doing, just gather around. All of your hands. He holds his hands out to either side. Don't worry, the words will come to you.
I think at this point, just with all the other crazy bullshit we've already done, Jeanette's just kind of going with the flow now at this point.
Yep.
Fuck it. So.
Gonna join the circle.
Yep.
And he begins to chant in this pseudo language. Avath nati valgavath, ithran astatoi. These words that make no sense, that bend the mind to hear. One more point of shock for everyone, please.
8.
And I need to know, in this moment, this is a ritual. Rituals require lore expenditure. Now, you can expend as much or as little as you want here. Rudy only has 1 lore to spend. He is going to contribute that lore to this.
I'll drop all 5.
Okay, that's...
I have 6 that I can offer.
5, 6.
I'll drop my 6.
All of these experiences you've had over what felt like decades down in that underworld, all of it building, all of it mashing together as these words that you don't understand flow through you like some strange subconscious mother tongue, the tongue of madness that lives inside the minds of all living things, this thing that you recognize but don't feel, this thing that you see but can't unsee comes through you. As you feel the edges of your minds ripping and tearing the boundaries between reality, you see eyes opening in the walls, lights flickering, the vast expanse of space tearing into the floor beneath you. As Rudy steps forward with this obsidian knife, letting go of the 2 hands that he had held, takes the knife and splits his hand down the middle. The blood pouring out over the amber emperor. As it rises and glows, this amber color beginning to turn into some small sun. The heat of it is so oppressive. It is like standing in the presence of the sun. You feel sweating, you feel your skin begin to burn like squelching hot blister burns. Everyone, please take 2 levels of harm here. Is anyone out for the count? Does that take anyone to 10?
I'm at 9.
6.
I should be at 5. Sona.
On death's door, Lillian. Before everything, like the sound of sealing a vacuum, this miniature sun implodes and fades into the fabric of reality. The eyes shut, the lights stop blinking, everything stops. And in that moment, you could hear a pin drop 1,000 miles away. It is silent. Rudy staggers, blood pouring from his hand, and falls to the floor to move into taking us out of this adventure. Rudy lived with some deft medical treatment from our good Dr. Barker. He will live.
I didn't have the lore on the lore move, but still able to apply some medical treatment.
Sure. And you had time. Now, finally, you had time. What you all did brought sleep back to these people. The reason it was so silent after the ritual was completed is everyone in this county fell asleep and dreamed for the first time in ostensibly 9 years. Whole county had been insane. What brought on the madness returning to the town was that pent-up passion of 9 years of being denied dreams and suddenly having all of that endorphin rush hitting you at one moment. Because as much as dreams are healing to the subconscious, they're also healing to the body. And what does the body need to heal? Endorphins, adrenaline. Close everything out. As far as the NPCs are concerned, before we get into asking each of our PCs what we feel like they may have happened to them after this fateful reunion. Another byproduct of this ritual being completed is Rudy's wasting disease went into remission. Rudy got to spend many years, although in a frail state due to his advanced aging. He did get to overlook for his son and his mistress for many years. Happy within this fortress that they had built to keep their rightful love protected from small minds that might lurk outside of the gates. Because as much as small minds individually are of little consequence, when small minds band together, they can do some truly despicable things. Of course, not 6 months after, a help wanted sign went up at the Bedlam Library, and Angelica and her paramour, Leticia, took up good Rudy on his offer to move into his vacation home in Lisbon, somewhere where their lifestyle would be looked on less unfavorably than here in the States. 2 of them lived out happy lives, though historians will most likely say that they were best friends. We know the truth. We were here. This is our story. Rod eventually went back to England after Leticia left. He opened up a string of pubs and lived out the rest of his days as somewhat of a local celebrity, telling tall tales of the American town he lived in and the Tommy gun he got to shoot. Now, as far as our players, we'll go in the order to which we were introduced to them. Dr. Barker, what do you think your life was like after this experience?
Well, I think one way to sum it up is that I don't know if I would be entirely the same again after such an experience. I did, during all of that, get up to 8 shock out of 10. So and naturally I would imagine that there could be healing of that over time, but there was something that I, brought away from that house. And that was that ring. And I guess what I'm wondering is, by keeping that ring and, I guess, indulging that curiosity, what would have happened?
Are you allowing me to outro you?
Well, I'm more or less asking what the effect of something that I picked up would be. So
Let's save that question for last.
Very
Outro
well.
yourself as much as you'd like up until the point where you'd like me to answer that question.
I would say that I would have gone back to my office and continued business as usual, but the curiosity of that, like the fact that what I know about this world is not all that there is to know. But maybe if I dig a little deeper, I could find something useful that could help in my profession, a breakthrough of sorts.
Indeed.
I mean, after all, this experience, like everything that we did, cured Rudy.
It's true.
Maybe there's something to be learned.
And I think I will finish your outro thus. Many months after returning to this small town that you live in Massachusetts, spent many nights pondering on that ring. Eventually up to the point of one night deciding to put it on. Many things started to become clear to you at that point. The boundaries between this world and the next, life and death, the transient nature of the soul, and that one doesn't truly need to die to become transient within the realms that be. All leading up to a fateful encounter with a tall, black-robed figure.
No!
As he holds his hand out to you. Well, Doctor, let us journey together. I have much to teach.
And I'll go with him.
And walking into the stars with Nyarlathotep, the Black One, the architect of the stars. Mr. Barker, Dr. Dylan Barker, was never seen again.
Just disappeared from my office one day, as far as any of the papers would report.
Indeed, a flight of fancy. Though, one person never stopped looking. The druggist, Seymour, refused to give up. He always knew there was something off, and maybe we'll see Seymour in the next story. Who's to say? Next, Detective Jeanette Miller. What do you think your life was like after this fateful reunion?
I think we were all changed. She would definitely go back to her apartment with, what were they?
Mrs. Tortorella and her grandson, Finn.
She would go back, but I think the shock and the harm that she received, because she did get up to the halfway point for harm and inched very close to the max for shock. I think after everything that she's experienced, she's going to retire as a full-time detective. And I guess dive into what the end of the day was her real passion. Private investigation, but also writing. She was always about the story. She was always about solving the case, and there was always that itch inside of her that it reminded her of those books that she read. I think she's going to turn into a crime novelist with a penchant for slipping into horror, I think, maybe as a way to cope with everything that she... So,
Sure.
with a 2 on the trust, I think the day that Dylan disappeared is the day she dove full on back into trying to find him. Try working with.
Absolutely. And we'll see if that story ever comes to fruition. And last but certainly not least, our good alienist, Dr. Lillian Freeman. What do you think her life was like?
Well, after she healed from all the harm,
Or which would have taken months in the hospital.
the first thing she's gonna do is go back to that frat house. She'll, of course, get permission from Rudy. Someone needs to keep an eye on it, and she's probably gonna spend the rest of her days going through journals and making connections and writing about it, but making sure that that door is never opened again. And if it is open again, she's going to end up probably traveling to make sure that it doesn't happen to anybody else. She's going to take up the mantle between hunter and protector.
Sure. Do you think it's fair to say you continue your vocation as an alienist here as well? And this becomes sort of your cabin in the woods where you can bring your patients and your clients in a calm place, turning this from a place of great tumult into a place of calm and peace, place of healing despite all of the death that's happened here.
I think that would be key for her, because she would take the horrors that happened and turn it into something good.
So that is the way Lillian's life played out, though the unmistakable few nights of horror over the rest of her life, where she would wake up in the middle of the night, not in her bed, but standing at the door with the scepter in hand. That place calling you back, a reverberation, and asking to return. I think on Lillian's final night on this earth, the pull was too strong to resist. After spending decades of her life as a successful alienist seeking treatment that was non-invasive, treatment that didn't require someone to go through hydroshock therapy or lobotomy, real healing of the mind after decades of noble work, fading once more into that good night. Because it's very interesting that we end with that phrase, passing into that good night. Thank you for being here, dear viewers, and listening to this tremulous tale, to sleep, if not to dream. Have a good time zone, and we'll see you on the next one.